Well, good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Billy Lawson. Today we're going to talk about something that almost nobody in America media is willing to talk about anymore or talk about honestly because it requires courage, clarity, and a willingness to challenge assumptions that have been baked into the system for decades. We are going to talk about immigration, not as a talking point, not as a slogan, not as a political football, but as a system. And more importantly, we're going to ask the question that should have been asked a long time ago. What if the system we have simply isn't working? Not emotionally, not ideologically, but functionally. What if we are seeing at the border and in our cities and our courts, in our politics, is not a temporary problem, but the predictable outcome of a broken design? And if that's true, then here's the follow-up question. Are we willing to fix it? Not tweak it, not argue about it, but fix it. Let's start here. For decades, the United States has operated under the assumption, one that almost no one questions out loud anymore. The assumption is that immigration should eventually lead to citizenship. That if you come here, you stay long enough, if you follow the process, you become an American. Not just legally, but politically. You vote. You shape the future. You become part of the governing body of the nation. That has been the default setting. But here's the problem. That assumption was built for a different time. A time when the pace of immigration was slower, the expectation of assimilation was stronger, the systems of enforcement and integration were more intact. That is not the world that we are living in today. Today we have massive backlogs in immigration courts, millions of encounters at the border, cities overwhelmed by sudden population influx, and a political system that is increasingly shaped by immigration flows rather than stable integration. And yet, we are still running the same model. So here is the proposal. And I want you to hear this clearly because it is not anti-immigration. This is pro-system. We pause for 10 years, a full, deliberate, unapologetic pause on new naturalization. Not tourism or work, not legal entry, citizenship. For 10 years, no new naturalizations are processed beyond those who are already deep in the system. Now, you can still come to America, you can visit, you can work, you can contribute, but citizenship, that's paused. Now, immediately, people are going to react emotionally to that. They're going to say stuff like, that's extreme, that's anti-immigrant, that's un-American. But let's slow down for just a second. Because what we are actually proposing is not exclusion. It is separation. And separation between entry, participation, and political power. Because right now, those three things are sort of tangled together in a way that's creating instability. Now, let me say something that might make people uncomfortable, but it's true. Immigration policy is not just about compassion. It's about sovereignty. It's about control. It's about deciding who becomes part of the governing body of the nation. Not just who works here, not just who lives here, but who votes here. Who shapes the laws here, who defines the future here. And if you believe that matters, and I do, then you cannot treat citizenship like an automatic outcome. So for 10 years we pause, and during that 10-year period we do something that Washington has proved that it cannot do under pressure. We fix the system. We rebuild. Border enforcement, immigration courts, visa tracking, labor verification systems. We clean up the backlog, we create transparency, we restore order. Because right now, and let's be honest, this system is not orderly. It's reactive. And it's overwhelmed. And it's being gamed. Okay, we'll get there. Let's talk about asylum. Because this is where things get even more serious. Under the current system, if you can physically get to the U.S., you can claim asylum. That means the incentive is clear. Get here first. Claim later. Or not. That's why you see surges at the border, overloaded facilities, years-long legal battles. So here's the change. No asylum claims inside the U.S. None. If you want asylum, you apply outside the U.S. at designated processing centers, in safe zones, through structured systems, and you wait for approval before entry. Now, my critics are going to say this. What about people fleeing danger? And that's a fair question. But here's our answer. We are not ending asylum. What we're doing is ending chaos. Because chaos doesn't help those people. Chaos creates backlogs, delays, uncertainty, and false hope a lot of the times. A structured system outside the border creates order, predictability, and fairness. Now, after 10 years, after the system has been reset, we just don't go back to the old way. Because the old way is what got us here. And this is where we move to something closer to an Australian-style system. A merit-based, point-driven system. Where immigration is not based primarily on family chains or random selections, but on natural interests, on economic need, on contribution. Let me be super clear here, because this is not about elitism, hardly. This is about alignment. Does this person strengthen the country economically, culturally, civically? If the answer is yes, welcome home. If not, why are we pretending this is sustainable? Now, I know some of you are already thinking, other countries already do this. I know. That's the point. You're right. Look at Saudi Arabia. They bring in workers, millions of them. But those workers do not become citizens. There is no path to citizenship. There is no expectation of political integration. It is transactional. You work, you contribute, and then you leave. Now, I'm not saying we become Saudi Arabia. We are not a monarchy. We are a constitutional republic. But here's the point. Other nations separate labor from citizenship. We've chosen to merge them. And that choice is now creating pressure on every part of the system. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want immigration to be about adding workers or adding voters? Because those are not the same thing. And pretending they are is part of the problem. Now, let's deal with this toughest part of this conversation. Identity. Because this is where people get nervous. This is where the conversation shifts from policy to something deeper. What does it mean to be an American? Is it just geography? Is it paperwork? Or is it something more? Here's the truth. A nation is not just an economy. It's not just a set of laws. It's a shared understanding, a shared expectation, a shared culture. And for immigration to work, long-term integration has to happen. Not perfectly, not instantaneously, but meaningfully. And if it doesn't, well, you don't get unity. You get fragmentation. You get parallel societies. You get mistrust. We are seeing this play out in real time in parts of Europe. Countries that open their doors without maintaining expectations. And now they are struggling to hold themselves together. So when I say identity can change, I mean that. And of course it can. It always has. But direction matters. And not all change strengthens a nation. Some change weakens it. Some change erodes the very thing people came here for in the first place. So this 10-year pause is not about numbers. It's about clarity. It's about asking, what do we expect from people who come here? Language, work, civic understanding, respect for our law. Those expectations have to be defined, measured, and enforced. Otherwise, you don't have integration or assimilation. You have coexistence without cohesion. Now, of course, now we need to address the critics because they are going to say, this creates a permanent underclass. But here's the counter. No, it creates clarity. You're here to work, to contribute. And if you want to become a citizen, that is something to be earned, not assumed. They'll say, this is un-American. But what is more American than fixing a system that isn't working? What is more American than self-correction? This country has amended its constitution, rewritten its laws, redefined itself multiple times. Not because it hated itself, but because it wanted to survive. And you guys will say, it's too harsh. And I would ask this, what is happening now? Is that working? Is chaos compassionate? Is overload humane? Is false promise kindness? Because here's the reality. Compassion without control is chaos. And chaos helps nobody. Not Americans, not immigrants, not anyone. Okay, so let's bring all this together. What we are proposing is not a wall, not a shutdown. It's a reset. A deliberate, structured, time-bound reset. All right, write this down. Phase 1. 10-year pause on new naturalization. Stabilize the system. Fix what's broken. Phase 2. Move asylum processing outside of the U.S. Restore order to humanitarian pathways. Phase 3. Rebuild immigration based on merit, on our national interest, on contribution. This is not radical. This is responsible. And here is where the question that I want to leave you with today. Not as a politician, not as a pundit, but as someone who actually cares about the future of this country. If immigration is working, then why does it feel like the system is under strain everywhere you look? And if it's not working, what are we willing to do about it? Because doing nothing is not neutral. Doing nothing is a choice. And right now, it's a choice to let the system drift, to let the pressure build, to let the consequences grow. Or we can take a breath. Take 10 years to rebuild something that actually works. My name is Willie Lawson. This has been the Morning Report. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody. And for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.